But there's some interesting creative stories out there. And the most interesting article I read today, I think, was this blog from Blogging the Boys here with, how did I forget his name?
Who was it? RJ Ochoa?
RJ Ochoa, okay. Yes. Okay, and he has...
more of a Megan Murray, Kelsey Charles guy at Blogging the Boys, but they got some good ones.
Yeah, they got a talented roster over there, and they crank content, which I love.
They do crank content.
Yes. 4 questions nobody is asking about the Dallas Cowboys right now.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Now, is it questions that should be asked, or it's just 4 that no one's asking? Like, will Jerry sell the team?
Yeah, maybe there could have been another part of that headline. I don't know. Decide for yourself if it's even a worthy question, and if so, how would you answer it here? Maybe this will turn into a media watchdog of Mr. Ochoa.
Oh, I'm down for that. We can do that.
Okay. Has CeeDee Lamb been a disappointment so far? Question number 1.
I will say CeeDee Lamb is sitting comfortably in the area where he has not overachieved, nor has he underachieved. Like, I think he had a relatively quiet 1,100 and whatever yard season that he just had in a year where we talk about how they really struggled to get the ball to their wide receivers. Man, if they didn't struggle, was he going to have 1,500? So has he been all that I dreamed of? No. But is he a disappointment in any way? No. I think he's sitting right in the middle.
Is it more on him or his quarterback? He missed the quarterback his first half of the year.
Yeah.
And in the second year, the quarterback wasn't as accurate as he needed to be, right?
That's
to
part of
find
it.
Him, or they couldn't. They couldn't get him the ball.
Him dropping some balls is part of it.
Yep.
And also, I saw our buddy David Hellman at DallasCowboys.com put out something about the Cowboys penalties this year, and how like a number of them was worth this many yards and killed this many drives, and the number was pretty big. And I can remember some of them where if there weren't penalties, I bet CeeDee has 4 more catches for 80 more yards, and now he's a 1,200 and something yard receiver. Yeah. So has he been the playing above the rim, spectacular catch? Holy cow, look at him go that I thought he could become? No, not yet. But has he been a disappointment? No.
I think he should have been so productive by now that all those things wouldn't have mattered. You know, I think he's really been a victim of circumstances.
I think that's a big part of it right now. I think the talent's there. Clearly the talent's there. I really do like what Jeff did with the player, though. When he put him in that in-between, and it's not riding the fence. It's just
1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns is a good number 2 receiver.
No, but coming out though.
Yeah, I thought he could overtake Amari Cooper by now.
That is the number 1 receiver on my board, and we had one of the great moments when he was drafted.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to kind of think about the great moments that we've had with CeeDee Lamb. Maybe the Minnesota catch, and that
was an incredible catch.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're kind of thinking like, man, look at what Justin Jefferson's doing. Look what, and there
could be more for sure.
Yeah, it could be a lot more for sure.
You get to keep Dak your rookie year. You'd be over 1,000 yards, so you would have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons to start a career where you're not even the team's first choice.
Maybe the bar was too high from my standpoint about him.
Our fault. Our fault.
Yep.
All righty, 214. It's difficult to show it as a wide receiver unless the QB targets them well consistently, and Dak hasn't done that.
And let me see what his kind of conversion is. Like when he's targeted, how often is that a completion? So CeeDee catches 66% of targets. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a great number.
It's doing pretty good.
Okay, 214. He's never going to be a spectacular catch wide receiver. He does get open. That's his bread and butter.
I disagree with that. CeeDee Lamb, he makes spectacular catches.
Yeah,
I mean,
that Minnesota one, that one corner end zone, was one of the best I've ever seen.
It wasn't Des Bryant level, but you would have a whoa moment at every training camp practice.
Yeah,
and it was CeeDee Lamb.
Most and every OU game.
Yeah, and every OU game. He can absolutely make spectacular catches. What I need him to do is, I guess, maybe have some more opportunities at those sorts of plays and catch the easy ones.
Can I ask a real quick
because
question?
That dude's out there getting lit up on a lot of these catches. He's holding on.
He is. More disappointed in him or what you thought what Amari Cooper might be?
This year, Cooper. Yeah, I mean, this year, Cooper had some big games. But again, it goes into there's more to it. Like, show me them both being targeted 140 times in similar spots, and we can kind of grade that.
Yeah.
Because I would say that today, Amari is still the best receiver on the team, and it's probably pretty close.
And they're talking about walking him.
Yeah, but I do think that CD, I mean, you can just look at the numbers, had the more productive year.
Yeah, I think for me, CD has been a little bit more of a disappointment, but maybe my expectations were too high. I think Amari Cooper has played at a higher level and just wasn't targeted as much. You know, I don't know what happened there, why the defense was able to take him away a little bit more. But I think that's a really good question. Neither one of them has lived up to expectations. 469 says too many drops. Maybe, you know, but you could nitpick the drops or the route running specifics that were talked about during this season. But I think all of that goes away if you could run the ball and force them to defend you with balance. And then CeeDee Lamb would have so many stats that all this little stuff wouldn't matter as much. You're still bringing in 66% of the passes. That is at least league average. What if Dak is now permanently what he was in the second half of the season? That is question number 2 here on Blogging the Boys.
Then you'll probably 2 years from now be looking for an escape hatch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. He had great games in there, but there's a consistency that determines the difference between good and great.
Yeah.
That's what quarterback is. You can't get 5 yards per attempt in 5 different games in the last 2.5 months of the year and be called great. So they're going to have to, between whether it's schematic, protection, being able to run the ball, Dak having an offseason to regain some assertiveness and confidence, all those things are going to need
maybe too.
Health. All those things are going to need to come together because, yeah, if he is that version of him where, hey, he's a good quarterback, but it's woo, up, down, up, down, up, down, then, yeah, 2 years from now, when it starts getting close to contractually feasible, you'd be looking for a way out.
That's when it's feasible, 24?
Well, and I'd see what happens when they move money around because they're
on a
going to move money
4-year
around
deal,
again.
right?
And
Yeah.
he's already got like $20 million of dead money in 2025 or 6 on a void year. So this is going to be a contract that's it's going to cost.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think to me, and I think Jeff even talked about it, you know, where's your worry factor? Where's the worry meter? Is it week 7, week 8, week 10? You know, going into next year.
I think you'll know pretty quick.
Yeah, that's
week
what
5,
I'm saying.
probably week 6.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking like, you know, but we've seen him play really good football for 6-7 weeks this year.
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden things went south.
I think for me, if we get to week 5, week 6 next year and it's not going well, I start talking with my front office. Is there a trade we can make? Are we in position to draft a guy this year? And if not, then I'm going to keep trying to make it better. And, hey, let's get the running game going for 2023. You know, is it better? And I would continue trying to make it better around Dak while also constantly having my eye on a chance to trade for a guy. Question number 3, would not cutting Anthony Brown represent a non-belief in Kelvin Joseph?
Probably, because they're in a spot where there's only a few ways that they can save their monies. And that involves restructures of about 7 different guys, probably 3 or 4 of which you don't want to do. And the clearest one that is, if I released this guy, here's $5 million, that's Anthony Brown. That's where he is. So if they don't release him, you can view it a different way where it's just like, well, they have 4 corners that they think are very capable, and we need lots of them, and $6.5 million actually isn't bad for a starting corner on a second contract. So I could make a case that everything is okay by keeping him because it's just like, look, we need the numbers. But if you got a second-round pick, you want him to start as a rookie. Health didn't let that happen, but you need to be assuming that he's going to start in year 2.
You've seen all the top corners in the draft, Jeff. Do you think you could trade him, or would somebody say, nah, we're just going to draft somebody?
Oh, I think people would draft him. I think it's a pretty good year for corners. I think if you're drafting in the top 40
or
50.
You couldn't get a 4 or 5 for a corner that's had some turnover value to himself.
For Kelvin Joseph?
No,
for Anthony Brown.
Brown.
What is his value, I wonder? He's a capable NFL starter
Plays
that makes
in the
$6.5 million, can play slot or outside. That should be tradable.
Yeah.
It should be.
See, that's what I'm saying. If you want to find a way to maybe get something back, maybe you get a 4 or 5 back for something like that.
817 asks, would you trade Dak for Kyler? If they move on from Dak, I don't want another quarterback who operates between the 12th and 5th best quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm moving on, and I want a fresh start with either a guy who's already in the top 5 or a drafted guy who has a chance of being a 15-year Hall of Famer for me.
Yeah, it's interesting because I no longer think that's crazy, but I think like if I was at 5th and I thought my guy was the 5th best, I'd probably be like, guys, this is what we're doing. Yeah. Because we could give this up, but if it's not for a proven 30-something-year-old who's just not happy where he is, then the odds of us getting this guy back, it might take us 20 years.
Yeah, you're right about that. You could end up really regretting. If you're locked in as the 5th best, if you're just outside of the modern Rushmore, cool. But if you vacillate between there and outside of the top 10, I just don't know if that's consistent enough. What if Sean Payton actually doesn't want to coach the Cowboys? Question number 4 of the questions nobody's asking.
That's fine.
There's a possibility of that, by the way.
TV money's good, and he might enjoy that life.
I would, let's not say it might not be Sean Payton's decision. It might be Jerry Jones's decision that he doesn't want that. Maybe he's got Dan Quinn in mind. Maybe he's got others. I don't think this is just a surefire lock. As I sit here right now and say that, I think it's going to have to be Sean saying it, and it's going to have to be Jerry saying it. And I'm kind of hearing whispers that both are kind of like, yeah, we'll see what happens.
I'd like to take my answer back. Because my initial thought is it's fine because Dan Quinn's on the roster or on the team, and I think a lot of us feel like he would be a capable head coach, that we'd be cool with being the head coach. And that I also think that every year, if you're creative enough and you look around and you ask the right people, there are dudes out there right now that are very capable of being an offensive-minded head coach that could make your team better. Like those people exist, but the reason that Sean Payton is such a fun pipe dream here is because we know that he's a very capable head coach. We know that he's a very good offensive mind, and we know that Jerry Jones is interested and likes him. Yeah. Because if you left it up to chance and McCarthy's gone and Sean Payton's not interested and they don't hire Dan Quinn, who knows what they do? If you told me they're going to find the best guy, then I would say it's no big deal. There's dudes that can be really good at this job. But I think we all rightfully have problems trusting that they would find that guy.
Yeah.
And that's why Sean Payton lines up so well, because he's what we want and he's what Jerry wants. So we're like, hey, look, he's got a good idea.
Yeah.
And if it's not him, where does he end up?
I could say, anytime we kind of connect the dots on things, sometimes it doesn't work out. I mean, I've actually heard enough people that are like, nah, don't just automatically assume that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Because
I was thinking that
Sean might not want everything that Mike McCarthy's going through right now.
Yeah. Well, he knows. Yeah. At least he knows.
He 100% would know what he's
I can't believe that Mike McCarthy and really our buddy Randy Mueller, former GM, around the league, he had an interesting tweet today about Mike McCarthy. He's like, listen, how does Mike McCarthy not know what's going on in Dallas with that whole situation? How does he go into that job not knowing that's what you're going to get into? Is he that naive to believe that? I thought it was interesting.
Maybe he didn't do his homework.
Oh,
would that be a surprise?
That's
I've got to run.
It would be a huge surprise that you don't know what's going to happen with the Cowboys.
Yeah. You'd have to try hard to avoid that info being in the NFL.